Now, it's common knowledge amongst gamers that movie tie-in games usually suck. They are often rushed, have a little connection to the source material, and are very super unoriginal in terms of gameplay. However, with Flushed Away, I was genuinely optimistic because I have such a love for the movie and consider it a real hidden classic. It has great animation, an engaging story with great characters, but most importantly, fantastic world and art design. I wasn't expecting much in terms of the gameplay, but the world they set up was one I would love to explore. Unfortunately, my dreams were quickly dashed as this was very much the stereotypical crappy movie tie-in games, with all the standard pitfalls you'd expect of them.
Bonjour! Comment allez-vous? Oh! Ah! I am so sorry for the startling. I am, how you say, stealthy. Stealthy? That is what I thought. Anyway, you will come quietly, no?
Because video games are typically longer than movies, it obviously doesn't make sense to copy the movie verbatim, and changes must be made. The problem with the changes is they fundamentally changed the tone of the story. First off, the game begins with Robbie running an obstacle course with these hamster butlers. A perfectly acceptable way to incorporate the tutorial into the story, but the crux of his story is feeling alone and being all by himself. He has two other pets living with him. It takes away from his loneliness and his need for a family. Meanwhile, the reason Rita stole the ruby in the film was to support her huge family, but in the game she just wants to upgrade her boat so she can explore Europe. Finally, the main thread of the game isn't trying to return Robbie home or even the cable in Rita's belt, but more specifically escaping the frogs who simply want the ruby back. It takes a story about family and togetherness and loneliness and makes it into just a bunch of fetch quests. What's even worse, while most of the cutscenes in the games are animated, any scenes from the movie are done using still-framed slideshow presentation. Sadly, all it does is to justify the scene change and offers nothing in terms of characters or plot for you to relate to.
Shall be the dawning of the age of amphibians.
As stated before, the whole reason I thought this would make a great video game was its setting. The use of scrap material for houses and the use of mundane items like hair blenders as jet skis could offer so many different opportunities for interesting, unique locations. Unfortunately, they don't really do anything with it, as everything just looks like a generic sewer. That's not being a cute jab. You have this underground city, but there's no sense of location or connection. None of the levels feel like they take place in the same world beyond the fact that they're all in the sewer. They had a great opportunity to make this living, breathing world, but everything feels so segmented off. Hell, there's a hubbed world, but it's too damn empty. This game came out 2 years after San Andreas, and yet there are PS1 games that feel more alive. Sure, they nailed the scale, and they really do make you feel like this incredibly small mouse, but the city is simply too empty. It's a lot of wide open nothingness, and there's no real point to exploring, because nothing is really there to find. As opposed to the bustling streets of GTA or Jak or any of the other open world games of the time, there may be 1 or 2 bystanders wandering around, and that's it. It honestly feels like they were going to put more stuff in, but just ran out of time, because there are huge empty corners with nothing in them. I had such high hopes for this game, but at the end of the day, the presentation is so bland and boring. It's a real shame considering what could have been. So big surprise, this is an action platformer and it's as generic and bland as you would expect. You have the standard button mashing combat with the usual platforming like rail sliding and ladder climbing, stuff we've seen 1,000 times before. To try and shake things up, they have boat levels which admittedly are pretty fun, but they give you like a dozen different weapons, but there's really no point to use anything other than the rocket. There's also the aspect that you have to buy ammo for the boat. But the only way to earn money is by beating up enemies or selling collectibles, meaning you have a serious lack of funds and often stick to what works. There's also this one random RTS, tower defense type level, and a single box puzzle. Neither of these are that memorable and honestly both feel out of place, but the game does let you replay them in multiplayer if you want. Despite all the brief shakeups, it's still the same old platformer we've seen thousands of times before. With no real collectibles beyond concept art, let alone any real reason to explore the open world, all the game is left with is as a boring, run-of-the-mill platformer.
Yes! We did it!
What do you mean, we?
Well, you did the driving, certainly. But I did lend a bit of moral support. Well, at any rate, credit is irrelevant. The mission is a success and we've done our good deed for the day.
Ultimately, the biggest complaint with this game is you could strip away the characters and the setting and replace them with gray boxes, and it would probably be the exact same. It's a standard by-the-book platformer. It's the bare minimum of what's required and nothing more. That's not to say it's bad, it's purely competent, but it offers nothing new. Yeah, maybe I put too much faith into the setting, but the thing that hurts the most isn't that this game sucks, but how bland and uninteresting this game really is. Flushed Away for the PS2 gets a 5 out of 10.
Who's your dad?